My summer was short, and this is always the jumping off point for the fall. But it's an exciting time. I love the college football season. Obviously, it's a busy time for us, but it's also the renewal of the new school year, and everybody's got an undefeated record when we get started, and so this is the first step down that path. Well, the first thought is we lost a lot of experience in athletic affairs and higher ed affairs. Jim Gallagly has hit the ground running and has really worked hard to get up to speed on athletic issues and higher ed issues, but he comes out of private enterprise, and there'll be a period of adjustment for him, I'm sure, and he's probably like a lot of people that make that move. He's drinking out of the fire hose a little bit in the early stages, but David brought a level of wisdom and a level of experience that was truly remarkable. And you don't get an opportunity to serve alongside of a guy that's been a sitting governor and a senator and an icon in higher education for so many years. You just don't get that opportunity very often. And he brought a lot to our Presidents and Chancellors Council, and a lot to the board deliberations on the major issues. And the last year he was there, he was my boss for a year and a half, and my relationship with David was great. He and Molly are wonderful people, and he's done so much for the University of Oklahoma. In fact, I have a proclamation that I need to get to him that he wasn't at the May meeting, so I wasn't able to present it to him. But I'll look forward with great energy to recognizing him at some point down the road. Well, I think it's my responsibility to make sure that the new chancellors or presidents are fully edified on what the issues are, what they have been, how we've come to the decisions that we've come to, and what we have before us in the future. And so we've got a bunch of new chancellors and presidents, and a lot of relatively short tenured people, and so it's developed into a topic that takes a fair amount of my time, making sure that I get out to campuses and get the presidents and chancellors an opportunity to ask questions and read materials and get snapped in, and yet the athletics portion of their daily life is not all that significant. We have great athletic directors, and we call upon the presidents and chancellors to help us to make decisions. But I think most of them operate by giving a lot of autonomy to their athletic directors, and we hope that we run the enterprise well enough that the presidents and chancellors don't have to be involved except when we really need them. Well, we want to make sure that whatever goes on during the conduct of our games is not having an outcome on what's going on the field, and our involvement in it begins and ends with that. We need to make sure that whether it's beer sales or whether it's control of locker room entrances or whether it's access to buses before and after the game, whether it's accommodation of media in the press box, there are some things that the conference gets involved in as a result of making sure we have fair competition and fair opportunity to go there and have a good experience. The only way that it intersects with anything that we would get involved with is if we had an incident of some sort that was perhaps alcohol related or perhaps not alcohol related. Some of our schools have policies that allow patrons to leave the stadium and then re-enter. I think in many ways controlling alcohol consumption by keeping the crowd inside from beginning to end may be a better approach to it, and certainly those that have gone to it, that's one of the reasons that they've said that they wanted to, because they didn't want to have people leaving the stadium for all the obvious reasons. And so I could make a capable case on either sides of the issue, but those are the kinds of things that institutions do on their own. They evaluate their own situation and they make their own decisions on that. They don't require the input of the conference office. I'll certainly help with it if they ask, but it's not the sort of thing that we have any jurisdiction, except insofar as it may affect conduct of the contest. Well, for a long, long period of time, it was believed that there was an NCAA rule that prohibited alcohol sales at football and basketball games and other things as well. Most institutions that have gone into this have started out in baseball or softball or some other sport, and not always jumped right into the football end of it. But there really are no national rules, and there are no conference rules relative to whether you serve alcohol in your press boxes, in your suites, in the general population, whether you make it available to students. I think it's that intersection, that last piece, that has really caused institutions to ponder whether this is the right thing, because about 3/4 of our student population is under legal drinking age in most states. And so there's always been the question, is it right to do this for adult fans and not right to have it available to students who are underage? And obviously you can't violate the law to do that. And so I think that has been the sort of dichotomy over time. But as revenue has gotten to be more and more difficult to generate, and as the public has cried out for it, because when they go to a concert or they go to an NFL game or an NBA game, they can have a beer if they want to. I think it's an evolving environment, and it's one, as I say, that the conference doesn't get much involved with, except when we're invited to get involved, or except when we have something that looks like it's affecting play on the field. Well, we're moving cautiously. As you know, the technology is changing dramatically even as we speak. Anybody that tells you they know what the world's going to look like from a technological standpoint 3 years from now, I think is delusional. I think it's just changing more rapidly than that. I do think that our members would like to have an aggregated platform of some sort where we could brand it Big 12 and we could put it up. And the digital approach is the best one today. The linear approach is really yesterday's technology, and many of the leagues are wed to that. But I think that we have the opportunity, and I think the characterization of the last beachfront property is accurate. Each of our institutions has one retained football game and 6 retained basketball games, and those are very valuable properties. In addition to that, we have all our championships, all our baseball, all our softball. We've got a lot of wonderful inventory. The volleyball in the fall is marketable. We just feel like there's an appetite for it. I think there's revenue to be made, and I think we want to make sure that we don't jump too soon, because we want to make sure and capture the latest technology and the best ability to promote the Big 12. Yeah, I think they can be compatible with one another. The Longhorn Network has access and rights to all of Texas's home events. Whenever Texas plays on the road in women's basketball or football or basketball or baseball, any of those things, those things the rights reside with the home institution. So we really have 19/20ths of the inventory in our league, plus all of our championship activities, and we've got a lot of good championship content. So I think the two can coexist. I think the Longhorn Network runs through 2031, and they have a model that's working well for them. Texas's media revenue is first in the country between the combination of what we distribute to them and what they make from the Longhorn Network. There's no other institution in this country that's making as much from their multimedia rights, and so they have a model that works, and we think we can build one that will be equally as successful and anticipatory of what tomorrow's technology looks like. Well, it's certainly accurate that the Big 12 needs Texas to be good in football and really in everything. You might have heard me say earlier today that they had a team in the postseason in every sport that they sponsor, and they won a national championship. But it's been a while since they were playing at that level from a football standpoint. And so I think Tom Herman is doing a very good job. They've recruited well. They've got a good developmental program, but it takes time to turn a football program. And we would certainly like to see Texas playing at a very high level. But that, as the commissioner, I want to see all of our teams playing at a high level. And so we believe that. Coach Herman is providing great leadership for that program, but it takes time. I've been involved in several football building processes, and you start to see it a little bit in practice, and then you start to see it in recruiting, and you start to see it a little bit on the field, and then it shows up on the scoreboard marginally, but just not quite good enough to win, not consistently anyway. And then all of a sudden you get over the hump and you think, why was this so hard? Why did this take so long? And so, it's Texas is a program with a proud tradition, and it's in a state that, Florida, Texas, and California provide as many Division I recruits in football as the other 47 states combined. So the appetite is there to have a strong football program, and I think the resources and the leadership are there as well. But you were talking about Oklahoma State earlier, and I would be remiss if I didn't give some credit to Mike Gundy and Mike Holder and everybody at Oklahoma State. There's nobody that's played consistently any better at a high level than Oklahoma State has over the last few years, and lots of 9, 10, and 11 win seasons, and they've done it first class, and they're going to have another really good team this year. Well, most of those big names weren't big names before they became big names. And you look at the teams that we have, the ones that distinguish themselves and rise up during the course of the season, I'll be very surprised if they aren't teams that have quarterbacks that are very capable. And it may be that it's the ones you mentioned. It may be that somebody else will all of a sudden start having big games and become that household name that we haven't seen before. I think that level of unpredictability is one of the things that's really the greatest about college athletics. I think I don't know who it'll be, but there'll be somebody in our league that rises up, and the stars will show themselves even though we don't know who they are right now. Well, I'm satisfied with how it's going, and I would be remiss if I didn't make sure and mention that ours is a verification process. It is not an investigative process. We are not trying to do anything that is otherwise being done by Pepper Hamilton or Cozen O'Connor or the Office of Civil Rights or the NCAA. Ours is the only task we have is to verify that Baylor is complying with the 105 recommendations. And Mack Rhodes and Linda Livingstone and Chris Holmes, the general counsel, and Matt Rule could not have been any more cooperative. The process is moving forward, and when we're finished with it, we'll have more comments. I see it nowhere on the horizon for us. We don't have it on any agenda. We haven't talked about it for quite a while, which has actually been a nice respite from talking about it. But I think we like our model. We like the way we compete, and I think we'll be where we are for a while.